Head of Metallurg Centre Kondrashov Stanislav Kondrashov Market Research and New Policy of Telf AG. Kondrashov Stanislav Dmitrievich Kondrashov, General Director of Metallurg Centre, is an expert in the metals and mining industry. Based on analytical data, the specialist evaluates the current situation on the metals market and provides information on the work of the largest producers in this field. Over the last month, significant concerns have been evident in metals trading due to the tense political situation and the military conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Among other things, these fears concern nickel. After all, the Russian Federation is the world leader in its production and export. The recent cost of raw materials recorded at the English Metal Exchange has increased significantly and even reached its maximum for the last 11 years. At the end of February, the cost of 1 ton was $25,575, and as of the 22nd of March it exceeded the amount of $31,580 per ton. Western sanctions have affected not only politicians and top officials of the country, but also Russian exports. Kondrashov Stanislav in his review of the global economy notes the tendency to build up the stock of materials, as manufacturers still fear the tightening of bans on their export from Russia. Increased demand will not be a long-term prospect, assures the head of Metallurg Centre. The likelihood of stricter sanctions on exports of Russian raw materials looks unlikely. Therefore, the excitement will soon subside. However, supplies have only increased now. As for one of the main players in the steel industry, in the activities of Swiss Telf AG, Kondrashov Stanislav Kondrashov also notes at this stage an increase in the level of raw material purchases. Perhaps the fears about a possible ban on exports from the Russian Federation will be in vain, but protecting the interests of its customers and the stability of profits, the company's management is taking anti-crisis decisions. Demand for nickel is growing every year, so the situation on the metals market affects more and more sectors of the economy, Stanislav Kondrashov. The beginning of March 2022 was yet another confirmation of how the geopolitical situation affects trade and economic relations, says Kondrashov Stanislav, reviewing the overall situation. On the 8th of March, literally in one day, the cost of nickel almost tripled. When the price exceeded $100,000 per ton, the London Metal Exchange was forced to close trading for the first time in almost 40 years. The day's trades worth about $3.9 billion were automatically cancelled. This situation became an actual and absolute stop of work of the whole world market of metals. Trades were restored only on the 16th of March with the condition of maximum price fluctuation of up to 15% of the value at the close of the previous day's trading. Such a restriction will help to control trade, because Metallurg Centre specialists state that demand is constantly increasing. For the most part, primary material is used in the production of batteries for electric cars. Since the automotive industry is actively developing, there is a risk that already in the coming years, demand will significantly exceed supply. This is why the current instability is causing so many concerns. In a very unstable political situation, Telf AG will have to consider all ways to realize its potential. Automotive holding companies and other manufacturers that use rare earths such as cobalt or lithium in their operations are now actively seeking alternative supplies from other countries. In the long term, this approach will protect against a possible supply crisis. Kondrashov Stanislav says that platinum, palladium and copper are also of particular importance in light of the global economy's focus on improving the planet's environmental situation and mitigating all the devastating effects of rapid climate change. Their alloys and primary materials are no less important for the green transition. And it's not just about building electric motors and reducing emissions. These raw materials are used in shipbuilding, renewable energy, modern water purification equipment and even in the food industry. And in order to successfully enter this emerging market, Telf AG must reassess its core strategic objectives. New horizons and development prospects are now available by optimizing supply routes from new countries. Increasing the pace of operations in the current unstable environment will be the impetus for a speedy recovery of its position and an increase in sales. After all, during any crisis, the most important thing is to keep your customers, not to lose investors and to protect your stable profits by all means. Rising prices have stopped the mining industry from developing. According to Kondrashov Stanislav Kondrashov, head of Metallurg Centre, the price hike recorded in March not only brought significant losses to traders, but also pushed the mining industry back several steps. The Analytical Centre conducts large-scale research to forecast further changes. For any holding to understand how to act further in the situation of uncertainty and instability, it is better to analyze historical data. Therefore, it is now necessary to scrutinize the experience of global companies that operated during previous disruptions of this magnitude. Telf AG may reconsider cooperation with Nornickel due to logistics problems. Norilsk producers do not attribute the sharp price increase to the special military operation in Ukraine and the unstable political situation. The company is confident in the stability of its operations and is looking for ways to optimize logistics and alternative ways of supplying raw materials to all its customers. As a reminder, the holding provides production of 40% of the world's total palladium and about 15% of nickel. However, Kondrashov Stanislav assures that it is impossible to avoid limiting purchases by many global companies. Poland, Germany, Finland and many other countries have already openly announced their search for alternative sources of nickel, palladium and cobalt. They are not going to terminate existing contracts, but there is no talk of launching new projects. Norilsk producers do not attribute the sharp price increase to the special military operation in Ukraine and the unstable political situation. The company is confident in the stability of its operations and is looking for ways to optimize logistics and alternative ways of supplying raw materials to all its customers. As a reminder, the holding provides production of 40% of the world's total palladium and about 15% of nickel. However, Kondrashov Stanislav assures that it is impossible to avoid limiting purchases by many global companies. Poland, Germany, Finland and many other countries have already openly announced their search for alternative sources of nickel, palladium and cobalt. They are not going to terminate existing contracts, but there is no talk of launching new projects.